Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special reunion 2020 episode. What is that? That's when I had a guest on in the past, and I liked him so much I had to bring him right back. All right, so today's guest is Danny Horanyi, and he is the SVP of Retail Innovation over at Caliber Home Loans. Danny, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate you inviting me back.
So excited to get into it with you today. I mean, it's, New Year 2020. Everybody's thinking about taxes already and tax time, all these things, and lending and their mortgage. That's a big part of the whole picture. But before we get into, the current state of the market and what's going on, I don't want to assume everybody is, they listened to the first episode. I don't remember when we recorded. It might have been like a year ago already now. That being said, let's get into what you're doing over at Caliber Home Loans. So tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So my current role at Caliber Home Loans is to really focus on relevant improvements to our current processes that are really going to make a meaningful impact on the originators, our local originators that are kind of distributed out into their communities. So retail innovation is about going where the puck is going, not just looking back and saying, what worked in the past and how are we going to continue to invest in that? And there's definitely a component of that, though, to think that some of the tried and true methods of building trust and cultivating relationships don't work would be a big mistake. And, we see some of, the other players in the market, trying to completely deviate from the just basic tried and true methods of relationship building and trust building inside of communities. So what we're trying to do is really build a model that is high touch, where we have our distributed community-based lenders that are, part of the Caliber team, supported by a super efficient platform that's high tech, that really backs them up and allows them to provide faster, better, more accurate advice to those families that they're serving, so that we can create more sustainable home ownership out in those markets that we're based in.
What kind of role is fintech playing over at Caliber? Because things are becoming more and more automated. Things are becoming, everything's just changing. I'm just curious how interesting it is that Caliber is riding that line between, obviously automation and the extreme answer where you talk to nobody, and then this one's the opposite. It wants to be very efficient to provide that amazing service, but also have that personal touch.
Well, Adam, I wouldn't say it's the opposite, because a modern mortgage company and a modern originator really needs to be efficient, and they need to be spending their time very wisely. And that's really what we're focusing on now. And the way I personally break it down is to look at work that's scalable and then work that's unscalable. And the scalable work is the work that can be automated, right? And it can be made more efficient. This isn't about eliminating roles, right? So, for example, I've been hearing for years and years that processors are going to be wiped out, right? Like this year's the last year that you're going to have a processor.
That's never happening. Right? Anybody that's gotten a loan, I think we can argue that's never happening.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I think will happen, though. I think a processor could legitimately carry, 50 to 80 loans in their pipeline and actually stay sane. Right now that would be an insane level of touch points for one person to maintain and have a very effective client experience. But with the support of technology and managing tasks efficiently and, having AI rank tasks appropriately to have the most success in creating a delightful client experience, which is really the focus, right? Our end user family, that's who we're here to serve, right? And it's very important that we keep them firmly in our mind as we're going through these processes. But it's not about eliminating the role. It's just making sure that they can do the unscalable parts of their job with more freedom of time, right? Because the scalable stuff needs to get off everybody's plate so that the unscalable work of creating connection and providing solutions, which you don't know how much time you're going to spend with a client when they call up and say that they need your help, which is really what everybody's calling up a lender. That's exactly what they're saying. They don't want money. They want help, right? Because they don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting around, to purchase into this next phase of their lives, right? And their growth and whatever else you want to call it, American dream and all that. So it's just very important and something that we've really focused on is this, being inside of the communities, which is a commitment that Caliber's made that many others have made. So I don't want to say that we're unique in that space, but being distributed out so that when we meet with our customers and give them advice, we know that we're going to see them 6 months or 6 years later at the supermarket. So what we do actually matters because we're actually living in those communities.
No, it's awesome, and I love the local approach. That's awesome. And so let's talk about what's going on in mortgages in 2020. So let's talk about the market in general. Anything you care to comment on?
Well, Adam, I mean, if I knew what was going to happen in 2020, I mean, that's like basically the equivalent of having a winning lottery ticket right now. I think the one thing that everybody's counting on is a lot of volatility, and I think that there's a lot of shoes that can drop in either direction that could have a meaningful impact on how things go. One thing that I'm absolutely sure of, because this has been true for the last 100 years, is that people are going to continue to buy houses, and they're going to continue to need loans to buy those houses. And whether the stock market's up or down, or it's a Democrat or a Republican that gets, elected president, all of those things don't fundamentally impact the progress, kind of the social needs that just develop over time. So where interest rates are going, I mean, it's really anybody's guess. I think what we've seen the beginning part of this year is pretty flat, not really anything that exciting. Certainly over the last week or so, as of today, we've seen a little bit of a bump up, but nothing really that's going to trigger the massive activity that we saw in 2019. One thing I will say though, Adam, that I think is really interesting is that if you think about 2016, which is the last, prior to 2019, the last time we had just massive activity from a refi perspective, we were still on the trend where from 1980 all the way to 2016, if you look at a graph of the 10-year, it was just constantly iterating down for 30 years, iterating down. So every time it went down another 25, 50 basis points, you would capture a 30-year band of refis, right? Going back all the way to the 80s, right? And, based on that chart. But 2019 was really interesting because there was only a 12-month band of activity, the 2018 volume that was available for refi, and anything that got missed in those previous iterations, right? So this is, just my, oversimplification of the issue. It's a little bit more complex, but by and large, it was just the 2018 loans that were available, and we still had a banner year. Many loan officers had their best year ever. So what that takeaway from me there is that, with our ability to stay in touch with our clients and all of us in the industry, our ability to add value and really focus on long-term home ownership, not just the transactional event of, getting that initial deal done. I think that's really moving us in a direction where, we can really capitalize fully on just the incremental movements versus needing that big swath of opportunity.
Man, that's awesome, Danny. And so if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Caliber Home Loans or to connect, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Well, anybody who's listening to this that has questions about Caliber is actually welcome to reach out to me directly at danny.horanyi@caliberhomeloans.com, my email address. I would love to share more about the company. This year, 2020, given all of the investments that we've been making in our processes and technologies over the last 5 years, really significant dollars and significant energy has been put into creating an environment where loan officers can really thrive. I'm here because I love it and I really believe in the culture and message that we represent in the market. And so if anybody wants to learn more about that, I'm always happy to share. That's something that gives me energy to do.
Man, that's awesome, Danny, and we really appreciate it. And thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate that. Been a great time, great catching up for our reunion 2020. And to the guests, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. Or also subscribe to the YouTube channel. We launched that this year. Subscribe there. Leave us some comments if you have some comments on the mortgage industry and what you think is going to happen next. And Danny, thanks again for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Adam. Have a great one.